Hi, I'm Brandon Tozzo. This is the 1,000-Second Album Podcast, and these are the albums from the 1970s that Jeff and I think you must hear.
Hi, I'm Jeff Stephen, and you're listening to the 1,000-Second Album Podcast. This season, we're talking about must-hear lists, as I continue to ask people that are important to me all about the music that's important to them. Enjoy! This is the 1,000-Second Album Podcast. I'm Jeff Stephen, and today is a good day because whenever you get to be chatting with your, at least in the top 2 city councillors currently in my house, is a good day. Please welcome Brandon Tozzo.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I'm looking forward to this. That's a big compliment. I'm in the top 2. That's
better personally hear it. You gotta. But the topic is, and speaking of things that are tough to narrow down, the must-hear albums of the 1970s. And I guess my first question for you would be, why are we talking about the must-hear albums of the 1970s? What makes this a list-worthy topic?
Oh, wow. The 1970s, I grew up listening to 60s and 70s music. So this is I know especially millennials tend to venerate the 1990s because that's a decade that we all came to be in our teens and early 20s or somewhere around that period of 90 to 2005. This was the 70s for me. The 70s was the music of my young life. It was the music I listened to. Not that I don't love 90s music, but when I have to go back and take a look at those key moments of my life, it was not filled with 90s music. It was not filled with music from the early 2000s. It was 70s music that slid into my brain when all the sort of big events happened. It's worth knowing that for me, I'm not technically trained in music. I don't play music. I kind of know what I like and know what I don't like. So music for me is an emotional response. It's purely based on how I feel when I listen to it. I cannot evaluate a technical side of music. I think Bob Dylan sounds fine. So for me, the 70s is that soundtrack of my life. And to this day, when I listen to an album, it reflects on something emotional in me and not technical.
Nice. And for me, those are the discussions I'm most interested in having rather than I noticed they did a B flat there. So it's how did it resonate with you and how did it make you feel? And for me, that's the way it should be.
Yes.
And I like that one of the initial ideas we'd thrown around was that we talked about what the second best Pink Floyd album was.
Yeah.
And I really like that idea of finding what's the second best because it reminded me of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they'd always say, this was the third worst thing that ever happened, but not necessarily tell you what the worst things were.
Exactly.
So, we're presuming, do we have the same best? Which is good.
Well, I think that's also the challenge of the 70s, is there's so many great artists who produce so much good material. The hard part is, so the challenge I made myself is I can only choose one artist with one album, but sometimes that was really hard to decide which one was their best. And that's sort of the challenge of this as well, is not only what's the best, but you could have big discussions of why this is your favorite and why not this other album or why not this other album. And I think this conversation will probably lead to a bit of that too, of why'd you choose this one and not this one? So that's part of the fun of the 70s as well, is, you take a look at a David Bowie. I mean, there's 3 or 4 amazing albums you could choose from him, or Pink Floyd, for example. So it's hard to do it that way. So I thought it would be an intellectual challenge as well.
Nice. And I did the same restriction for that very reason, and for that very the first artist in particular. I had to limit myself there.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Now the what's good news too is that the 1,001 albums you must hear book that I went through, this was by far the most represented decade, where of those 1,001 that were decreed to be thou must hear, there was 279 of them. So I wonder if these will be 5 of the ones from that list. We shall see.
Yep.
But in any event, it should be good. So the question is, where did you go? No, in a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Nice. Yeah. Where did you go with your number 5?
This was the hardest for me. So 5 was hard because as I was even here, there was I was interchanging number 5 with number 6, number 7, and number 8. But I'm going to go with my 5th greatest album of the 1970s with All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. And why? So emotionally with me with this album, when I really got into it, I went through a big breakup in my early to mid 20s, and I'd been with somebody for about 5 years, and it ended quite abruptly. And this album was one of the first ones I really purchased after that, and it kind of got me through, because that album is both a post-Beatles album, and in that sense, it's kind of a breakup from the Beatles. And one thing I find really fascinating with the post-Beatles work is all of their first albums are kind of like that breakup album that they all had, except maybe Ringo. But Ringo's his own kind of like animal. But like Plastic Ono Band, McCartney, and All Things Must Pass, it's just they're sort of like they're free to do what they want. And one thing I really noted about the Beatles is sometimes that's really great in the post-Beatle years. Sometimes it's really bad. And like some of their music is just not that great, especially as the 70s drags on. So I really have a big debate for myself. This was going to be like, what's my favorite post-Beatles album? And my favorite post-Beatles album is definitely All Things Must Pass, because I think track by track, it's got a lot of highs, it's got a lot of lows. But one thing I really love about George Harrison is just this sense of like moving on throughout the album, of just kind of let it roll. Like, it's a really like emotionally complex album. It's very like, it's elated, it's positive, but it's also very deep. And that's one thing I love about George Harrison's music. I think John Lennon also has some really great post-Beatles music. Imagine, Plastic Ono Band. But his music, I find there's a lot of hits, a lot of misses, and Paul McCartney can get quite fluffy. So that's my number 5 album of All Things Must Pass.
Excellent choice.
Yeah.
And I find it's always so interesting that during those difficult personal times in life, like where you think we wouldn't look back on that era fondly, there's the music that gets us through, that helps us pass through that phase, that ends up being that much more meaningful in the end. So excellent choice there.
Yep.
And I like how you chose one with 3 records worth of music too. So if you can't choose one, choose the one that's 3 LPs. So.
Well, this is the thing too. Like, one of the things I try to do when I choose my favorite albums is what's an album I can listen to in its entirety and not skip, or skip rarely a song. And All Things Must Pass is one of those rare triple albums that you can pretty much listen all the way through. And it's pretty, like, it's not every track is great, but all of it's really, really good. And there's very few albums you can say that are double sides that really you don't skip through. Like maybe The Wall, maybe the White Album, but even the White Album, Revolution 9 is not great. But it's one of those where I think it's large, and you can tell it's like a decade of work that he probably was told you can't produce this. So
that's it, exactly. He had some stuff in reserve, maybe that didn't come out in the group that went solo. There it was.
Yeah, I would actually posit that, like, I think George Harrison, pound for pound, has, I think, one of the most successful post-Beatles career. And I really, really enjoy that. So, yeah, that's my number 5. And that was really hard.
Yes.
Are we going to discuss honorable mentions?
Eventually, yeah.
Okay.
We might as well save those to
Yeah.
That's good. Nice. No, I went the solo route as well, and had a similar challenge of, I had 2 albums written side by side with very little notes on either, because it was a game time decision. And although I think John Prine's self-titled debut is off the charts, I ended up having to give the nod to Cat Stevens' Tea for the Tillerman.
Good for you. That's such a good album. Oh, good job. Yeah.
And I think the no skip philosophy you have is a good one.
Yeah.
And probably what ended up nudging this over the finish line was that the end of the album is so strong. Whereas when some albums can have a really good, great coming out of the gate and then sort of taper, that closing pair of father and son, and then Tea for the Tillerman just being only a minute long, it's just perfection. Yeah. And it's the kind of thing that just it's evergreen. It works at all times of year through all the years. And so although I've got many good things to say about many more albums from the 70s, that one had to sneak in there as my number 5, Cat Stevens.
And Cat Stevens' voice is just, he's got just this amazing voice of like, it's deep and it's melodic and it's great. He has a really great cover of Here Comes the Sun. Okay. Which is like I love that. I love that song. It's one of my favorite Beatles songs. But he has just this like really like, it's acoustic and it's like vibrant. But yeah, Cat Stevens, great choice. Yeah.
And speaking of George Harrison with Here Comes the Sun,
I know. Yeah.
So it looks like we chose the right ones.
Yeah,
which is good.
So yeah, great choice. That didn't make it in my top, and But I can't dispute that really is a terrific album.
Nice. Yeah. And I imagine your 4th one is also a terrific album. The question is, which one was it for your number 4?
So I'll tell the story of this. When I was 17, so growing up I was really into the 60s. I was raised on the Beatles. And you'll notice I reference the Beatles quite frequently as a point of reference and comparison. But I didn't want to do anything about the Beatles.
Understandable.
So when I got my first job, I was around 17, and I used to work with this guy who was a few years older, and we used to hang out a lot, and we used to smoke a lot of pot and hang out in his apartment. And he had this like massive vinyl collection, and we used to just hang out and listen to music. And he really got me into David Bowie, and I had not heard a ton of David Bowie, but we actually used to sit down and go album for David Bowie. And like, I love David Bowie. David Bowie's the artist I've actually seen live the most.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've seen him live like multiple times. Like every time he's come to Southern Ontario, I've seen him live. Huge David Bowie fan, and it's hard to pick out because he's got like 4 or 5 just fantastic albums that meet the criteria of from beginning to end. You can listen through, and there's very little problems.
And they're also different.
They're all so different. Yeah. He really captures sort of like 60s feel, then he goes to 70s feel, like sort of space rock, and then prog rock, and then like funk. But the album I'm going to choose for my favorite David Bowie album is Hunky Dory. And why I think this is great is it has sort of David Bowie's own taste on like what 60s rock was at that time. So like starting with Changes, you've got all You Pretty Things.
Life on Mars.
Life on Mars,
Yeah.
Quicksand,
Yeah.
which is so like I heard him do Quicksand live, and my God, that was brilliant. Yeah. Beulah Brothers, which is great, a great closing, unusual finish, which I think really kind of shows where he was going next with Ziggy Stardust. But just like overall, just a fantastic album going through, and like that was like. When I started listening to it too, I was 17 years old. Like that's really when you're going through a lot of changes from being like an adolescent to an adult. So the music really touched upon me at that stage of my life as well.
For sure. When you were 17.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I won't spoil it yet, but that won't be the last time we hear from David Bowie today.
No.
But in the ranking order, it'll still be a couple away for me. I think Hunky Dory was 71, and I'll fast forward to 72 where the singer Nick Drake had the album Pink Moon. And it's wonderful. I really think it's only somewhere in the ballpark of like 28 minutes long. So whereas like sometimes you can have the huge amounts of quantity like George Harrison with the triple LP, here it was just so unbelievably sparse and short and yet so memorable. I think it's only on the first track that there's a piano overdub, like just one little piano overdub, but then otherwise just Nick plus guitar, that's it. And so, which for me makes for such a great, there's just something, it's a less is more, I guess, is the idea there. And I remember when I listened to this about 10 years ago, the line I used in my review was that it makes me want to be a better guitarist. And so I guess maybe I was in the Jack Nicholson, Helena,
you make me want to be a better man.
so maybe that had been ringing in my head. But it's true, like he plays in these neat, unorthodox tunings, and I find that's probably the best compliment I could give, where when I hear somebody play, I'm like, I would love to be able to play like that. And it's just such a great, like, if you're driving late at night, I couldn't picture a better soundtrack to have.
Drake.
So Nick Drake, Pink Moon, yeah, wonderful stuff.
Great stuff. Great album. Yeah.
Nice. The question is, where did you go on round 3?
Round 3? I went all the way back to 1970, and I chose Simon & Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water. I don't think that there is a single, like, phase... Simon and Garfunkel have just always been there in my life. And I kind of go back to them sort of here and there whenever I've gone through a big phase of, like, change and transition. But, yeah, like, Bridge Over Troubled Water is just such... a great album. Like from almost every track is just like Cecilia, the Boxer, like what a fantastic album from beginning to end, and just their vocal range, and like I love their live music too, like Live at Central Park is just such a great album. But Bridge Over Troubled Water is just one of those ones that have really stayed with me, and I kind of cheating because it came out like I think just January 2nd, 1970. So, but it makes the cutoff. Just it's almost a 60s album. But yeah, like I kind of went through like all the music that I'd listened to the most when I was coming up with this list, and objectively, I've listened to more Simon and Garfunkel than probably anyone except for my number 1 and 2 slot. I love that folk music. I love Joan Baez. I love Bob Dylan. I just love Simon and Garfunkel. I love Paul Simon's post work. Graceland is one of my favorite albums of the 1980s if we ever got there. Yeah. But I think that is probably like just a perfect album in my view. Yeah.
Nice. And the whole idea here is we're talking about the must hears, and if it's the one you've been listening to just about more than anything else, then it's one that really ought to be heard then too.
And like that's the thing about this. This is also like when I take a look at like my playlists at the end of the year, most of these either mean a lot to me or I still listen to them to this day. It's music that never gets old for me. So like I still go back and listen to like Hunky Dory, like Changes is always on my like top, or Life on Mars is always up there. But like Bridge Over Troubled Water, like I still like Bridge Over Troubled Water is just an amazing song as well. Agreed. Yeah. And like who hasn't come to that point in their life where you're like, you just need something to go through troubled times, or just like The Boxer of like when you're fighting against those odds and you're feeling like you're fighting against like, the tide and you're just trying to struggle through. Like, it's just the lyrics are great, the music's great, the harmonies are terrific. Yeah.
And The Boxer, that's that lovely like the la da da la da 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 la da da. And we have fond memories that did you ever go to Rick McGee at Western? So there's a folk singer that was there on Wednesday nights, and whenever he sang that song, everyone would clank their their pints down, and it just made for such a great communal experience too. So excellent choice. I ended up going to 1977 with my next one. And it's fun. There's those ones that you'll listen to independently and the ones you'll listen to with your spouse. And this is one I know Wendy her family had the audio cassette of Fleetwood Mac Rumors. Oh. So it's a great one. And it's one for me where I find it's one where it's the great example of the whole being greater than the sum of its parts, where like the songs themselves are all fine, but just you put them all together and it just works magnificently as a record. That being said, the chain is just exceptional.
Yes, yeah.
And if we were talking about why it's important to listen to vinyl records or why the medium matters, having that as the side 2 opener rather than just a track midway through the running order just makes a whole lot of sense.
So and put in pin Rumors because it's later on my list.
Oh, stay tuned.
So and like with respectfully, like let's
move on.
Let's move on, but put a pin in that because I agree. But I'd like to get
more in depth, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
But totally. Yeah.
Nice.
So we'll talk. We'll put a pin in that. Talk about Rumors,
and we'll be back.
We will be back after a message from our sponsors. Yeah.
Nice. Now the question is, did Rumors show up as your number 2, or do we have to wait?
You have to wait.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. What was the number 2 then?
Number 2 for me, this was so hard because I love this artist. And it was a choice between 4 of their albums. So, but I landed on Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. Yes, Wish You Were Here. So the debate between me for Pink Floyd, I love Pink Floyd. Love Pink Floyd. Was really a decision between this, Dark Side of the Moon, and Metal as I could talk about every Pink Floyd era. Like I love it from a Piper at the Gates of Dawn. I love their later stuff like Division Bell, but their mid stuff obviously with Roger Waters and The Wall is still is phenomenal. But Wish You Were Here. When I was in my early 20s, I had a really close, tight group of friends from high school, and we kind of grew up together. And in the course of 3 months, I lost two close friends, one to suicide and one to a car accident. And the music that really got me through that really challenging time was Wish You Were Here, because it kept reminding me of like this absence. And that same social group of friends used to hang out for a few years after, but it was never the same. And that always made me reflect upon like the sense of absence. And I think as you get older, we're both in our 40s, you get more and more absence in your life of people who are gone. And that album I played really, really frequently after that sense of trauma and loss in that point of I Wish You Were Here. And I think it also stands the test that this is an album that you can listen to all the way through.
Yeah.
No, there's no skips. It's got like "Have a Cigar," which is a which is a great song. But yeah, like with the song "Wish You Were Here," "Shine You Crazy Diamond," like yeah, just overall a melodic masterpiece in Pink Floyd's catalog. But so hard to choose from this and Dark Side. Yeah.
No, and I remember a friend using the line about absence being a presence, and I find that musically a lot, where if you've had a loss in the personal life, it's there in the music.
Yes.
So the absence in the life is very present in the music and when you experience it. And so, I could totally see that being the soundtrack of that time. And what's nice is that, it was that 75-ish or so, I think was which, But we, we'll do sing-alongs at school where playing that on the acoustic guitars in the courtyard.
Yeah.
And that, on the title track, the harmony on the two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl.
What a perfect lyric. Yeah. I was thinking of that lyric actually before I came here today. Yeah. And the other great lyric I love from Pink Floyd is from Echoes are brilliant, bright ambassadors of morning. Like, what a... like, occasionally in music you just get like this great lyric where it's like the opening to Across the Universe. From the Beatles.
Yeah.
Words are flowing out like endless rain upon a silver. Yeah. They tribble wildly as they make their way across the universe. Like, what an image. Yes. Like, this lyrical ability. And And Pink Floyd just does that so well.
Yes. Yeah. Nice. And someone else who was no slouch when it came to lyrics would be my number 2. We've heard him mentioned before.
Yep.
And again, I had the same dilemma of which Bowie to go with.
Yes.
And I ended up going with Aladdin Sane.
Interesting.
Yeah. which for me, and I think part of the reason I went with this one is that I didn't get it right away. When I first listened to it, I thought, maybe I'm not the target audience, that sort of thing. But because with that albums book, I made the rule that I had to revisit it at least twice.
Right.
And so when I went back and then went back again, it grew on me in a huge way, and so now it's my favorite of the bunch, and so I'd say I'd classify that as my must-hear Bowie because it's the journey. I went on a journey with it, and so I find maybe if you don't think you like Bowie, maybe you'll be proven right after one listen. Yep. But you'll also realize like, if you stick with it, it's off the charts amazing. It's got you mentioned the idea of like his phases. It has the sort of glamminess at the beginning with the watch that man, love that. The sort of stomp along Genie is that
so good. Genie.
And I think when I think of Bowie, I think of when he passed away, there was a GIF that somebody shared where it was sort of a flip book of all his styles throughout the years, and it's one of those just wonderful collections where as if we had like a homemade like flip book with the animation going, and it was just amazing how many different sort of fashion styles he went through to accompany all his musical eras. And probably the line that makes me think back to that time was Jermaine Clement said, "It was so sad that Bowie has passed, and so beautiful that everyone's listening to him right now." That's how we're commemorating the day, just like diving back into the catalog and going to the ones that mean the most to us. And for me, that would be Aladdin Sane.
Here's a question for you. I chose Hunky Dory. You chose Aladdin Sane. Why not Ziggy? Ziggy is probably like, and I think that this is worth a point of discussion. Yeah. It's like, Ziggy is largely hailed as his best album, I think, by rock critics, and it was really like a monumental change. And Ziggy, I think, is clearly a great album. Yeah. But what made you go Aladdin Sane as opposed to Ziggy Stardust?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. That if you told me Ziggy Stardust is his best album, I won't dispute that, because again, and it has those elements of like the alter ego, the single Starman's on there, and Ziggy Ziggy played guitar 5 years. There's no shortage of greatness on there. Though if the criterion is must hear, for me, you could hear that and have a great time, but I think you really ought to hear Aladdin Sane, because for me that's the Bowie that if you told me, okay, quick, show me a David Bowie album, that's the one I'd fish out for you.
Excellent. And I want to get back to like David Bowie just being like a fulsome artist, because there's the fashion sense, but there's also his acting. Mm-hmm. The fact that he acted quite a bit. Like there's Labyrinth, which is just a fun movie, but he was also in The Elephant Man. He was also Pontius Pilate. Like he was really like the fashion icon that David Bowie was. Like he was a full artist, and not just in music, but in all eras. And I can't think of an artist, like maybe Madonna, who constantly reinvented themselves. Yeah. Like I'm trying to think of any other that has gone.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
and who stayed relevant the whole time too. Yeah. And with his acting, I think my favorite of his performances was the brief cameo in Zoolander when he was the walk-off judge.
Yes.
So for me, I'll always smile thinking of that acting performance as well.
The one cool thing about David Bowie though is that he has almost a great album every decade. Is that even like after his 70s, like you could, I think what you could categorize David Bowie is like I think Menace to the World is a great album. I think Hunky Dory, Aladdin Sane, Ziggy are just like a part of a trio of amazing albums. I'm kind of the philosophy that I think Low and Heroes are good. I don't think they're not my thing. No. But I like them. Like I still listen to them quite a bit. Like the Berlin trilogy is like it's just not my jam, but I get why people like it. But like even in like Let's Dance in the 1980s was good. That was 80s, right?
Yeah. I want to say 83-ish.
83, yeah. And like Earthling was good in the 90s, and he had like a bit in like the 2000s. Like every decade, he was still relevant. Perhaps not as great as he was in the 70s. He also did not do as much cocaine and heroin, so
which might have helped the cause.
Yeah, might have helped with his longevity. But yeah.
Nice. So the pin had previously been put in, but I think it's time.
Yes, it's time to pull up. So yeah, number one for me is "Rumors" by Fleetwood Mac, and now the pin is out. Yeah. Let's talk about why this is such. I get made fun of because I love Fleetwood Mac so much, and I love "Rumors."
Yeah.
But yeah, like to your point earlier, it is just a flawless album. Yeah. And I think it just captures the emotion of loss and movement and relief and joy and you could I love reading any of the background of the album of just how much there was conflict within that. It just produced such great art. But yeah, give me your take on Rumors that the pin is out.
Yes, so it's funny you mentioned the idea of joy and movement, because for all the the lower points potentially on it of not the jubilation.
Yeah.
There's a great Saturday Night Live skit where Paul Rudd and Vanessa Bayer are going through a divorce. They're meeting with their lawyers, but then I Don't Want to Know comes on, and they can't stop dancing to it.
Yes.
And so it's great that alongside those other ones, there's these just super upbeat moments in there, and then again it comes back down for a Gold Dust Woman a little bit later, and that sort of thing. Yeah. So it's it's
Songbird.
So yeah, and it's one of those ones where if you weren't looking at the album, you could even look at it and say, "Oh, this is a greatest hits of Fleetwood Mac," because so many of the songs are familiar from just general rotation, and just wonderful.
Well, I don't think they've got great albums otherwise. Tusk is a great album as well, but nothing reaches quite the area as Rumors of just banger for banger. And you're right, The Chain was also just phenomenal. That beat of it, yeah.
And I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the 11th studio album in their catalog, and then Tusk would be number 12. And if you have this amazing release 11 albums in, that's incredible. Yes. It's not an early creative burst and then a fade. Here it's just, I guess they're getting warmed up on the first 10, and then they come out with this with number 11. So that's another reason why it would be right at the top for me.
Good call. Thanks for putting the pin in that one. But what a just a brilliant level of technical ability and just emotional resonance. It's probably Fleetwood Mac and Rumors is probably the album I come back to the most in my adult life. You know, the funny thing, I never really listened to it as a teenager or as in my 20s. I really only got into Rumors in my 30s and 40s. I really only started listening to Fleetwood Mac as I got to middle age. And I think to your point where this is their 11th album, I think you have to go through a bit of a little bit of rocky kind of stuff in your life to really get a full appreciation for it.
Fair. Otherwise, you might have the surface level appeal, just with the melodies, but then once you've had some life experience, there's a bit more you can connect with for sure. For my number one, I had to go to William Joel and his 1970s. I stayed in 1977 with a stranger.
Of course. Yeah, that was in my honorable mentions. That was one of my interchange ones. Yeah.
So for me, where there's a great scene in Ted Lasso where they have the Diamond Dog. Speaking of Bowie, they're sharing their emotions, and Roy Kent is finally opening up. And they're talking about how there's no perfect people, there's perfect things. And Roy Kent shares the perfect album is Billy Joel the Strangers. It's like he makes a compelling argument. I think it's yet again for the reasons of front to back, and for the high points. I think are Billy Joel's career high points as well, where scenes from an Italian restaurant. If there's a better 7-odd-minute song, I haven't heard it. But then, a song like Just the Way You Are as well, like where I've actually borrowed that as a pep talk in coaching, where it's like, now that we're in the playoffs, don't go changing. Keep doing and play just the way we are, and we're going to be fine, and that sort of thing. And then moving out, Vienna again.
Vienna, so good.
On my notes there, I even wrote the word "so good."
So good, so good.
Probably not much more need be said, because it's him at the peak of his powers, and what a peak it was. Billy Joel, the Stranger.
One thing I love about, and this is an anecdote because I was listening. I love Billy Joel as well. I mean, no dispute there that should be it. This was in my honorable mentions. This is number 3 in my honorable mentions. So you were right with me there. But one thing I love about Vienna, that song, is I don't think Billy Joel knew his father. And he came back and he's like, Vienna will still be there for you. Like the same thing. It's like, slow down. It's sort of like fatherly advice talking to a kid. And that I found was really fascinating, because apparently, anecdotally, that was the advice he got from his own distant father that he had for Vienna, which I thought was really fascinating and adds another layer to that song. But yeah, I love Vienna. Is such a great song.
Yeah, 100%. And unintentionally, that links up with the father and son from Cat Stevens.
Exactly. Well, Jeff, there's some issues here.
It all comes together.
It all goes. We really are getting an emotional biography of Jeff Stevens. So there we go.
I like it. But
music and therapy together,
all for the price of one.
But music is therapeutic, though. It really does. It lets you, for me, because I'm not technically into music. For me, it's an emotional connection. All this music, all these albums were really something that impacted me in a very kind of emotional or transitional or happy stage of life. When I was running for office, I listened to Pulp. That album, Common,
sing along with the Common.
Yeah, sing along with the. And it's just funny how this music can really kind of come out when you're at different phases of life.
Love it. Nice. And the question is, which ones didn't make that elusive 5? Is the question.
So, and I'd be curious of your list too, because this is really hard.
Yeah.
But for me, the top 4 were easily just automatically top 4. Rumors, Still Here, Wish You Were Here. Still have it on my Spotify playlist. Bridge Over Troubled Water, clearly just always there. The Real Thing was Hunky Dory Same. It would have been. It would have been a Pink Floyd album. Yeah. It would have been a David Bowie album.
Yes.
You could debate which one was it. Honorable mentions were actually. I think it's more interesting of why honorable mentions were honorable.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's great. They're great music, but they don't emotionally resonate with me as much as other ones. This one, so the first 3 bounced in and out of my top 5. So the first honorable mention was Zeppelin 4.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I need to go into why Zeppelin 4 is just amazing from front to back. Stairway to Heaven, Misty Mountain Hop, Battle Forevermore. It is such a great album. Here's my thing with Led Zeppelin. I like listening to Led Zeppelin. I feel the same way about Nirvana about once a year. It hits me. I want to go in the car and listen to a banger, but it doesn't have the same emotional resonance with me that Nirvana is the same way. I like Nirvana, but in utero I listen to once a year. It just doesn't hang on.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Nice. And I find there's foods like that too where you crave it. Like there's that window of time and it's like, okay, I'm good for the year, and we'll come back next year.
Led Zeppelin's the Kentucky Fried Chicken of food for
So to
me.
speak.
You know?
I'm sure they'd appreciate that.
Yeah. It's like Kentucky Fried Chicken. You know, you want it once a year, and then you're like, ooh,
I'm big till next
yeah,
year.
I'm good till next year.
Nice. And then you mentioned Dylan earlier. Is
Dylan,
there more
Blood on the Tracks.
Excellent choice. And that would be among mine as well.
Yeah.
I remember a colleague saying if they were in a situation where they had to identify a favorite song, Tangled Up in Blue would be right out. And for me, it's like, yep, that's a pretty good one to have if you've only got one Dylan to have.
The only thing about Blood on the Tracks that didn't make it my top, and I agree the highs are really great, is that some of it's not great. Yep. Like Dylan is in a lot of his music. Sometimes when he gets it right, he gets it really good, and then like it's long and it's boring and his voice is grating at times. But Blood on the Tracks is clearly.
But when he's on,
and Tangled Up in Blue is just a brilliant one. Yeah.
And you said The Stranger was the third.
The Stranger was the third. Yeah. So.
Excellent. And were there more beyond those guys?
Oh yeah. I love the 70s. So Born to Run.
Oh yeah.
And that was a tough one because it was between that and Darkness on the Edge of Town. Yeah. So those are two really, like, I think Bruce Springsteen, but again, I like Bruce Springsteen, but it's just like I don't know if it fits into that whole, like, I don't go back to it very often. So
no, that's fair.
How about you? Any other?
There's it's one of those ones I think as soon as I had mine, I sort of blocked out the rest. But I think it's one of those ones, if we'd go through a bunch of albums, like some Stevie Wonder ones in there, that is that was amazing, or Joni Mitchell, or you name it, Carole King Tapestry, or a few Elton Johns in the early window of the decade too, like Madman Across the Water, or Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, or you name it.
So here's a question for you: is no punk, like
no, and it's probably for that same reason where do I enjoy the Sex Pistols, the Ramones? Yes. Did they, speak to me at an important time of life? Probably not. And so as a result, they're ones I probably appreciated more. Like, oh, this was important for its time and place, and I can see why a lot of people have this as a sacred album, but just the timing wasn't right, I guess, when I got into it, and so it just didn't have the same appeal as some of the other ones for that durability, I guess.
I agree with you. Like, I love London Calling was kind of the closest I would put on.
And that's one that was sort of cutting it close to, like, it was like end of 79, like just shy of 1982.
So Joe, let's talk for a moment about Pink Floyd, because I noticed Pink Floyd wasn't on your list.
No, and it's funny because they're an artist that I think there were friends that were really into them. But you meant the aforementioned, the people from our age demographic that lived for the 90s.
Yes.
I was one of those folks that lived for the 90s.
Right.
And so Pink Floyd I've gone back to since. And all the ones you mentioned were good. And they'd probably be the ones that would be the standouts for me. Like the Dark Side, of course, Metal. I really liked Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Again, it's a totally different sound with the sort of very psychedelic in that sense too. But it didn't have the same, I guess, I didn't have the personal history with it, which probably didn't bring it into the contender status here. So if we were talking best, there's probably an argument to be made for a lot of them, and they have so many wonderful tracks that exceed 10 minutes as well, which I always appreciate. And Animals as well.
Animals, so good.
Those the nice lengthy ones there. But just because there isn't that long-standing personal connection for a must here, I probably just couldn't give as persuasive an argument about it.
So I know that this is not a 90s one, but 90s or your 70s, what would you put as your, like, top 3, just off the top of your head? I'm curious. Or top 5. Like
these are good questions.
I know, right? Yeah.
For me, I think without any reflection, you'd have to have one of the early Weezers on there.
Okay.
You'd have to have either the Benz or OK Computer by Radiohead in there.
Yes.
I'd need to have some sort of tragically hip representation, I think, as part of the personal journey there.
Melancholy?
Melancholy would be, I think it's just celebrating anniversary number 32.
Yes,
so that's in the mix. Some of that like mid-90s Cure stuff I love, because it's just it's all over the map with the emotions, like Rumors would be, where there's joy, there's sadness, and everything in between. And for a fifth, let's go Jim Blossom's in there as well. With,
really?
New Miserable
Experience. Okay. I wonder, like, like, no doubt Tragic Kingdom was so phenomenal. Like, I listen to that so often. I don't know if it would, like, if I listened to it again, I don't know if it would hold up, but it stands out to me as like a 90s album that I probably gave it more listening to than it might have deserved. To be honest, I don't know if Nirvana would ever make it into any of my top 90s.
No, and I think they're incredibly important, like in terms of understanding the trajectory of popular music. But if they didn't speak to you at the time and they didn't, have a huge impact later, then we can let somebody else have that as their
yes, But well, definitely agree on like either OK Computer or the Bends, because that would be interesting. But it's kind of funny like how different eras just meet with people in different phases of life. But I guess I'm a child of the 60s and 70s. Based on that.
And based on today's selections, not a bad child in which to be a decade in which to be a child of.
It's great music though.
Nice. Well, a huge thank you for coming today, Brandon, and until the next time.
Yes, thank you for having me, Jeff. This was a lot of fun.
This has been the 1002nd Album Podcast. Thanks for sharing some of your time, energy, and attention with us today. Take care.